In a distant corner of the galaxy, a young human engineer named Rian is taken aboard the royal flagship of the Valari Empire, an ancient alien civilization known for keeping their distance from humans. But everything changes the moment the Valari Empress lays eyes on him. Calm, powerful, and feared across the stars, she breaks her own laws by choosing a human as her future mate. Her single gesture, her finger pointed directly at him, shocks the entire imperial court and throws Rian into a world of danger, secrets, and cultural tension he never expected to face. As the Empire whispers about prophecy, forbidden bonds, and the reason she chose a fragile human above millions of her own kind, Rian begins to sense that her desire is not simple affection. It is tied to an ancient force awakening inside their galaxy. With enemies plotting, alliances shifting, and time running out, he must learn why she chose him, and whether he can survive what comes next. Rian never meant to stand in front of an alien throne. All he wanted was a quiet engineering job on a mining freighter, a place where no one asked questions and nothing unexpected ever happened. But the day the Valari patrol ship pulled his crew out of hyperspace, his life shifted in a way he didn't understand. He remembered the fear on everyone's faces, the heavy silence, and the way the alien soldiers walked with perfect rhythm. Silent, tall, and dangerous. They were famous across the stars for their beauty and their coldness. No one touched them, no one approached them, and no one was ever taken to meet their empress. Yet here he was, standing in a hall made of shimmering glass-like stone, with glowing lines running through the walls like living veins. The air was warm, almost humming, as if the entire room was breathing. The Valari guards kept their gold eyes on him, unreadable and calm. Rian tried not to stare back, but he couldn't help it. They looked carved from some ancient star, tall and luminous, and every single one of them seemed confused, because they didn't know why a human had been summoned. He didn't know either. Then the doors at the far end opened. Everyone went still, not because of the sound, the doors barely made any, but because of the presence that swept into the room like a wave of heat. The Empress of the Valari walked forward, her steps slow and deliberate, her long white hair moving as if stirred by invisible wind. Her skin carried a faint glow, and when she passed, even the air seemed to shift. Rian felt it strike him like lightning, calm but overwhelming, powerful in a way nothing human could ever be. He swallowed hard and tried to look respectful, but his heart was hammering so loudly, he wondered if the entire court could hear it. Then she stopped, right in front of him. Her golden eyes studied his face for a long moment, and the silence stretched until he felt like he couldn't breathe. She didn't look curious. She didn't look angry. She looked certain. Certain of something he couldn't see. He opened his mouth, trying to think of something respectful to say, but nothing came out. That was when she raised her hand. Every guard froze. Every advisor stiffened. Every voice died instantly. Her arm lifted slowly, gracefully, and her finger pointed directly at him. Steady, unblinking, full of decision, like she had been waiting for this exact moment. Rian's breath caught. He didn't understand. He didn't know what pointing meant in their culture. But the guards did. Their eyes widened in shock, almost fear, and murmurs rippled through the hall like small explosions. "She has chosen," someone whispered behind him. Chosen? Chosen for what? The Empress lowered her hand but kept her gaze locked on him, unbroken, as if she wanted to memorize his soul through his eyes. Rian felt heat run through him. Embarrassment, confusion, and something else he couldn't explain. Her expression was unreadable, but there was something about the way she watched him, something almost personal. One of the advisors stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Your Radiance, this is a human. They cannot." "That is why," she said softly. Her voice seemed to echo inside his chest more than in the air. Warm, smooth, completely certain. The advisor bowed his head, speechless. Rian's throat tightened. Your Radiance," he managed. "I don't understand what's happening." She tilted her head slightly, as if amused by his confusion. Then she spoke again, her words slow and gentle but carrying a force that made the room feel smaller. "You will." Two guards approached him, not aggressively, but with clear purpose. One of them spoke in quiet tones, trying to keep the situation calm. "Human Rian, please do not be afraid. You are honored." He didn't feel honored. He felt like he was standing on a cliff with no ground beneath him. Honored how? The guard didn't answer. Instead, he glanced toward the Empress with a look that hinted at fear and disbelief. Then he said in a whisper Rian almost missed, "She pointed at you. That means she sees something. And when the Empress sees something, everything changes." Rian's stomach tightened. He didn't know what that meant, but the weight of it pressed against his chest. The Empress was still watching him, still silent, still studying him like she could see right through him. Finally, she spoke again. "Bring him to the inner chambers. He must understand before the council gathers." Rian took a step back. "Wait, inner chambers? Why me? What did I do?" She didn't blink. She didn't waver. She didn't hesitate. Her answer hit him like a thunderbolt. "You did nothing," she said. "But I have chosen you as my future mate." The guards froze. The advisors whispered in panic. Rian felt the world slip sideways, his breath catching, his body going cold. Mate? She meant mate? Him? A human? No warning, no explanation? He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. The Empress simply turned away and began walking toward the glowing corridor that led deeper into the palace. As she moved, she spoke without looking back. "Time is short, human, and the galaxy is already watching." And with that, the guards gently but firmly led him after her. Only then did the fear truly hit him. What did she mean by time is short? And why, out of every being in the galaxy, did she choose him? The deeper the guards led Rian into the palace, the more overwhelming everything became. The air felt warmer here, almost alive, carrying a soft hum that vibrated in his bones. The walls shifted from cool crystal to a darker, smoother material that reminded him of onyx, with faint pulses of light running through it like a heartbeat. Nothing on any human station looked like this, too organic, too ancient. The Empress's private wing was rumored to be off-limits even to most Valari nobles, and he was being taken straight inside. He tried to keep his breathing steady, but his thoughts hammered against each other. Mate, the word didn't make sense. Felt too big, too heavy, too impossible. Humans and Valari weren't even genetically close. Their cultures barely interacted. And the Empress choosing anyone at all was rare enough. Choosing a human was madness. 2 guards walked beside him, tall shadows moving with the calm confidence of warriors who had never known fear. But even they kept glancing at him, confused, as if trying to understand why their ruler had picked the fragile creature between them. One finally spoke, voice low enough to keep the corridor from echoing. "You must not react with alarm when she speaks to you," the guard said quietly. "Her emotions influence the palace systems." Rian blinked. "Influence? You mean the walls react to her feelings?" "Yes," the guard answered, eyes forward. "If she is calm, the palace is calm. If she is distressed." The guard didn't finish, but the way his jaw tightened told Rian enough. This didn't help his nerves. At the end of the corridor, the doors parted in complete silence. And there she was, standing alone on a balcony overlooking a spiraling view of glowing nebulae. Her hair drifted like soft light, and the fabric of her robes seemed to ripple in sync with the stars. If she heard them enter, she didn't show it. She simply kept watching the galaxy outside, as if she were listening to something far away. The guards bowed deeply and stepped aside. Rian remained frozen, unsure if he should bow, speak, or quietly faint. "Come closer, human," she said, her voice calm but undeniable. He swallowed hard and stepped forward. The balcony's transparent floor made it feel like he was walking on starlight. When he stopped a few feet away from her, she finally turned her gaze toward him. Her golden eyes held no anger, no impatience. Only a steady, unreadable certainty that made his chest tighten. "You are afraid," she said softly. He didn't deny it. Anyone would be. A faint, almost invisible smile touched the corner of her lips. "Good. Fear means you understand the weight of what has begun." "What has begun?" he asked. "Why me?" I'm just an engineer. You are not, she replied immediately. Not to me. Those words hit him harder than he expected. She stepped closer, her presence warm enough to make the air vibrate. Rian instinctively backed up a step, not out of disrespect, but because being this close to someone so powerful felt like standing too close to a star. She watched his reaction with quiet interest, tilting her head slightly. In Valari tradition, she said, an empress does not choose a mate for comfort or beauty or even reproduction. Her eyes held his. She chooses for resonance. Resonance? He echoed. I don't. You carry something in you, she said, raising her hand slightly but not touching him. Something that echoes with my own energy. When I saw you, I felt it. The choice was already made. His heart pounded. But I didn't feel anything. Humans rarely do, she murmured. He opened his mouth to ask what that meant, but she suddenly turned her head slightly, like she heard something he couldn't. A heartbeat later, the balcony lights dimmed, then flared gold again. The palace seemed to shiver under their feet. Rian froze. What was that? She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked outward, toward the nebula swirling beyond the ship. Her expression tightened, subtle, but real. For the first time, she looked worried. The council has already heard of my choice, she said. They move faster than I expected. What do they want? Rian asked. Her jaw clenched, and the glow around her body flickered for a moment. They want me to choose a Valari mate. They fear what my choice of a human could mean for our future. He took a slow breath. So what do you want? She turned back to him, and for the first time he saw something human in her eyes. Loneliness, maybe, or exhaustion buried beneath centuries of duty. I want the truth, she said quietly. Why your presence shakes the bond lines of the palace. Why your heartbeat pulled mine toward it. Why the ancient resonance answered your arrival. Rian felt a chill. You think I did something? No, she said. I think you are something. Before he could respond, an alarm pulsed somewhere deep in the palace. Low, resonant, powerful. The Empress went still, her eyes flaring bright gold. They're coming, she whispered. Who? Rian asked. She stepped in front of him, protective and fierce. The council's elite. They want to remove you before I can claim you formally. His breath caught in his throat. Remove me? You mean? Yes, she said simply. The doors at the far end of the chamber glowed red. Heavy footsteps echoed. The Empress's voice dropped to a whisper filled with urgency. Stay behind me, Rian. Whatever you do, do not let them touch you. Your life depends on it. The doors slammed open with a sound that vibrated through the entire chamber, and Rian instinctively stepped back. 6 figures entered, tall even by Valari standards, dressed in armor dark as obsidian and lined with glowing red veins. Their presence felt heavier than gravity itself, as if the air bent around them. These weren't normal guards. These weren't advisors. These were the Empress's High Council enforcers, the ones who acted when the council wanted something done without debate. Their leader stepped forward, helmeted and expressionless. Your Radiance, he said, his voice smooth and cold. The council demands immediate compliance. The human must be surrendered. The Empress didn't move an inch. Her posture stayed elegant, calm, but a ripple of golden light passed over her shoulders, the first warning sign of Valari anger. He is under my protection, she said, and he will remain so. The enforcer didn't flinch. Your choice is unbinding until the claim right is complete. Until then, your decision can still be corrected. Rian's stomach twisted. Corrected? That sounded like the politest threat he'd ever heard. The Empress stepped slightly in front of him, shielding him with her own body. Leave now, she said, before I interpret this intrusion as treason. The enforcer tilted his head. You forget, Your Radiance, the Council and I were crafted for one purpose, to ensure the Empire survives your emotions. Rian felt her aura shift hotter, brighter. The palace lights flickered. Her emotions? He whispered. What does that mean? She answered without looking back. It means they think I am too powerful to be trusted with my own heart. The leader raised a hand, and 5 enforcers began to move in, spreading out information. We do not wish to harm you, Empress, but the human cannot stay in this wing. His presence disrupts the palace systems. You must choose a proper mate. Proper, not human. Rian's chest tightened. I didn't ask for any of this. And yet you caused it, another enforcer said. By existing. The Empress snapped. Golden energy flashed around her, sharp as lightning. The enforcers halted instantly, their armor reacting, shields shimmering into place. You will not touch what is mine, she said. Rian's pulse stumbled. Mine. The word hit him in a way he wasn't ready for. Not romantic, not yet, but protective, intense, absolute. The leader raised his arm again. This time the glow on his gauntlet darkened. Then forgive us, Empress, but we were instructed to proceed even against your wishes. Before Rian understood what that meant, the enforcers moved. The Empress reacted first, her hand snapping forward, sending a wave of gold energy across the room that cracked the floor. 2 enforcers slid back but didn't fall. Their armor absorbed the blast, dimming but holding strong. Rian, step back, she said sharply. He did 2 steps, 3, but the floor lit up beneath him in a pattern he'd never seen. Lines of silver light snaked outward like a living circuit. An enforcer pointed at the glowing floor. The palace recognizes the resonance. It is trying to bind him to the Empress's bond lines prematurely. Dangerous. Unstable. The leader stepped forward. Take the human now. 3 enforcers lunged. The Empress moved with an inhuman burst of speed, her arm cutting through the air. A barrier of gold energy exploded outward, slamming into them. The sound rattled Rian's bones. But again, these enforcers didn't fall. Their armor flickered, then steadied. Your power is unmatched, your radiance, the leader said. But so is our command. You cannot overpower all of us without risking structural collapse of your palace. The Empress's eyes glowed brighter. I would destroy 1,000 palaces before I let you take him. Rian's breath hitched. The guards weren't listening. They surged forward again, this time splitting into 2 flanking groups to get behind her. Straight toward Rian. He stumbled back, panic rising like fire in his lungs. He wasn't a fighter. He had nothing. No weapon, no armor. Nothing but fear rushing through him. 1 enforcer reached him first. The moment the armored hand got within an inch of his chest, the floor erupted. A shockwave burst upward, violent, silver, blinding, throwing the enforcer back into the wall with a crash that shook the entire chamber. Every Valari in the room froze, even the Empress. Rian stared at his own hands, shaking. I didn't do anything. I swear. The leader stared at him with something close to awe. Impossible, he said quietly. Humans cannot trigger a resonance surge. The Empress slowly stepped toward Rian, her expression stunned, truly stunned. For the first time since he'd met her. She lifted her hand, hesitating only a moment, then touched the air near his cheek, not quite making contact. You felt it, she whispered. The bond line answered you. I don't even know what that means, he said, voice cracking. The leader spoke again, tense and urgent. Your radiance, the council will not accept a human who can influence the palace systems. If the resonance grows. Enough, she snapped. But the leader wasn't backing down anymore. Then we have no choice. He raised his hand. All 5 enforcers charged at once. The Empress moved to shield Rian with her body. But before she could reach him, the palace itself reacted. Light exploded up around Rian, forming a dome of swirling gold and silver energy. The enforcers slammed into it, ricocheting away like metal struck by thunder. The Empress skidded to a stop, staring at the shield with eyes wide and glowing. Rian, she whispered, her voice trembling for the first time. The palace is protecting you. He didn't understand. He didn't want this. But the shield pulsed again, almost beating like a second heart around him. The leader stepped back in fear. Your radiance. This is not a bond. This is something else. Something older. The Empress's gaze locked with Rian's. "Rian," she said quietly. "This should be impossible." He swallowed, voice barely a whisper. "Then what is it?" She answered in a voice full of awe and fear. "A prophecy. One that says the Empress will find a human whose heartbeat can rewrite our future." Rian stared at her, stunned. "Rewrite how?" She took a slow breath. "By either saving us," she stepped closer to his shield, eyes burning gold, "or destroying everything." The shield around Rian pulsed a little faster, soft, bright, and rhythmic like a heartbeat that wasn't his own. Every thrum scraped against his nerves, making his chest tight with confusion. The Empress stood inches away from the glowing barrier, her face lit by swirling gold and silver light. She looked torn between disbelief and recognition, like she was staring at a ghost she never expected to see alive. The enforcers remained where they'd fallen, unsettled but regaining formation, their armor crackling with disrupted energy. None of them dared to approach again. Even they understood what they were seeing wasn't normal. Rian swallowed hard. "You said, a prophecy? What prophecy?" The Empress exhaled slowly. "A story older than our empire. A warning etched into the memory lattice of our first Empress." She hesitated, her eyes flickering. "A story that claims the Valari throne will one day answer the heartbeat of a human." One enforcer hissed under his breath, "Blasphemy." Another whispered, "Impossible. Humans weren't even known to exist then." Rian felt smaller with every passing second. "You mean, this was written before humans were even out in space?" "Yes," she said quietly, "which is why the Council forbade any mention of it. They feared the prophecy. They feared this moment." He couldn't breathe right. "Then why? Why did the palace protect me?" The Empress looked at the shield again, its light reflecting in her pupils. "Because resonance reacts to truth, and the palace only responds this way to one thing." "What thing?" She met his eyes. "Destiny." Rian felt the world tilt beneath him. "I don't believe in destiny." Her voice softened. "That is why you were chosen." Before he could process that, the shield flickered, just once, like it was stabilizing itself. The enforcers flinched. Their leader slowly rose to his feet, defensive posture rigid. "Your radiance," he said. "This cannot continue. If the shield grows any stronger, it will bind permanently." The Empress's expression sharpened. "And if it does? Then the human becomes part of the palace's core," the leader said. "Linked to it, linked to you, linked to the throne." His voice turned cold. "We cannot allow a human to wield that kind of influence." Rian felt chills crawl across his skin. "I don't want to wield anything. I just want to go home." The Empress's eyes softened, but only for him. "You cannot go home, Rian. Not now." Something in her voice made him step closer to the barrier without thinking. "Why not?" She hesitated, then spoke the truth she'd been hiding. "Because the Council believes the prophecy ends with my death." His breath stopped. The enforcers shifted uncomfortably. "The prophecy," she continued, "says the Empress's heart will break when the humans does, and that her fall will bring an end to the Valari dynasty." Rian's voice came out raw. "So they think I'm going to kill you?" "No," her voice dropped. "They think your death will kill me." Silence pressed against the chamber, heavy as gravity. "Which means," she said, "they consider you a threat simply by existing." Rian felt his knees weaken. "But I didn't do anything." "You breathed," the leader said harshly. "That is enough." The shield brightened, almost reacting to Rian's fear. The Empress lifted her hand toward it again, careful not to touch. "You see?" she whispered. "It responds to you. It feels you." He shook his head, voice shaking. "I don't want this. I don't want any of this." Her expression changed, softening like sunrise. "I know. And yet the galaxy does not ask what you want. It asks what you are." "What am I then?" he whispered. She stared at him for a long moment. Then she gave the answer that shook him to his core. "You are the first human whose soul resonates with mine." He felt his heart twist painfully. That word, soul, felt too intimate, too deep. One enforcer stepped forward again. Your radiance, hear us? This human must be removed before the resonance completes. If it binds, killing him might bring catastrophe. Killing him will bring catastrophe now, she said sharply. The leader clenched his fists. We must act before the council arrives with reinforcements. Reinforcements. More enforcers. More firepower. More danger. The Empress turned sharply. Rian listened carefully. The shield dropped slightly in brightness, almost leaning toward her voice like it understood she needed to be heard. You must leave this chamber, she continued. There is a chamber deep in the palace, one that predates our empire. Go there. Hide. The council cannot breach its walls. He stared at her helplessly. You want me to run? Yes. And leave you here alone? Her eyes softened, pain flickering through the gold. I have stood alone all my life, Rian. This is no different. He shook his head. Something inside him rebelled at that. It is different. Because I'm here. Because you chose me. The room fell still. Even the enforcers glanced at each other. The Empress's glow dimmed for a heartbeat. Soft, warm, fragile. You shouldn't say things like that, she whispered. Why? Because I might believe you. The leader cut in sharply. Enough. Step aside, your radiance. No, she said. The ground trembled. The shield pulsed. And suddenly, violent alarms screamed through the palace. A deep voice boomed across the comm lines. Council fleet arriving. Impact in 30 seconds. All units prepare for forced compliance. Rian's blood ran cold. The Empress's face drained of color. They're coming for me, he whispered. No, she said. They're coming for both of us. She grabbed the edge of the shield, trying to force it open. But the palace reacted before she could. The barrier split, forming a narrow opening behind Rian. A glowing corridor appeared, made of ancient stone and pulsing light. The palace itself was offering him a path. Go, she said urgently. Now. Rian hesitated. Fear, confusion, and something deeper twisting inside him. But what about you? She met his eyes, raw emotion breaking through her composure. I will hold them off, she said. No matter what it costs. He took one step backward into the glowing tunnel. The enforcers charged. The Empress unleashed a shockwave of golden light. The palace sealed the tunnel behind him. And Rian ran into the unknown as the first blast shook the world behind him. Rian woke before the ship's lights rose, his breath tight, his palms sweaty, as if the dream he'd slipped out of hadn't finished chasing him. He sat up slowly, rubbing his face. The dream wasn't really a dream, more like a memory turned inside out. Lyesi, the Empress, standing barefoot in a ruined hall, her crown cracked, her eyes begging him to run even as she reached for him. He didn't know if it was a vision or just fear wearing a familiar shape. He pulled on his jacket and stepped out into the corridor. The starship hummed like it was whispering warnings under its breath. Outside his quarters, the two Narathi guards straightened immediately. They didn't speak, they never did, but they bowed slightly in that silent, unnerving way that meant you are important now. Rian hated it. He wasn't meant for bowing or thrones or treaties carved in blood. He was supposed to be back on a research station arguing about comet dust. But destiny had reached out in the shape of an empress with impossible eyes. He headed toward the observation deck, wanting quiet, but instead found Lyesi already there. Alone, not armored, not regal, just wrapped in a loose cloak and staring at the swirling white storm of the nebula ahead. She didn't look back when she said, "You had the nightmare again." Rian froze. "You're reading me?" "Your heartbeat wakes half my instincts," she admitted softly. "I wish it didn't. I wish I could walk past you without knowing how afraid you are." He stepped beside her. "I'm not afraid of you." Lyesi finally looked at him, and something fragile flickered through her expression. "Not of me. You're afraid for me." He swallowed. "Yeah." Silence stretched for a beat. Then she whispered, "Good, because the danger is closer than you imagine." Rian's breath caught. "It's your council, isn't it? The ones who don't want a human anywhere near your throne." Her jaw tightened. They think claiming a human will make me weak. They do not understand what you did on Halan Outpost, or what you continue to do simply by existing near me. Which is? He asked quietly. The Empress turned toward him fully. The nebula's pale glow painted her cheeks silver. You destabilize me, she said. You make me feel things that my people were taught to bury 7 centuries ago. Rian exhaled shakily. Liesi. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. That is why they will try to remove you before the ceremony. His stomach dropped. The marriage demand wasn't just cultural, it was protection. Yes. And I walked into it like an idiot thinking it was just diplomacy? One corner of her mouth lifted. You walked into it like a human, brave, reckless, guided by your heart instead of strategy. Rian placed a hand on the railing, trying to steady himself. So what now? Before Liesi could answer, the ship jolted. A deep alarm rippled through the deck. The lights flickered red. Liesi's eyes widened, not in confusion, but in fury. They're early. Council assassins? Rian asked, already stepping toward the exit. No, her voice was cold, sharp, deadly. Worse, a rival claimant. My cousin Veritha. He believes my bond with you is a sign of corruption. The ship trembled again, harder. Rian grabbed the edge of the doorway to keep his balance. He's boarding. He's already inside. Then what do we do? Liesi didn't hesitate. She extended her arm. Stay with me. Do not leave my side. Rian took her arm, feeling her pulse hammering like a storm under her skin. They sprinted down the corridor as klaxons blared. Guard after guard fell in behind them, forming a protective wall. The ship shook again, and the lights snapped to emergency mode. As they rounded a corner, they nearly collided with a battalion of armored Narathai. Except these ones bore the violet crest, the mark of Varith's faction. Rian sucked in a breath. Liesi didn't. She stepped forward, and her voice split the hall like a blade. Veritha, face me. The soldiers parted. A tall figure strode through, broad-shouldered, cold-eyed, wearing a crown of jagged metal. Cousin, Veritha said. Or should I say, Empress who abandons her kind. Liesi lifted her chin. Step aside. You bring a human into royal blood. Veritha spat. You desecrate our lineage. His gaze slid to Rian. I expected more intimidation. This one looks soft. Rian bristled. I'm standing right here, man. Veritha smirked. Exactly my point. Liesi stepped between them. Touch him, and I will break your spine. The tension snapped like glass. Veritha signaled his soldiers. The hallway erupted. Guards clashed in a violent storm. Metal against metal, light against shadow. Rian ducked behind a panel, heart pounding, watching Liesi fight like a force of nature. Her movements were precise, deadly, almost beautiful, like a storm dancing. But Veritha wasn't just strong. He was fast, too fast. He crashed into her with a blow that cracked the floor. Liesi stumbled back, gasping. No! Rian shouted. Veritha seized her throat. The world narrowed. Rian didn't think, he just moved. He grabbed the nearest fallen guard's stun staff and slammed it into Varith's side. The crack of energy lit the corridor. Veritha roared, releasing Liesi. Rian stumbled back, but Liesi surged up, eyes blazing with fury so bright it bordered on sacred. You dare touch what is mine, she hissed. Veritha snarled. He weakens you. No, Liesi snapped. He strengthens everything you fear. Her hand shot out, catching Varith's collar. Rian didn't even see her other hand move. He only heard the impact. Veritha crashed into the wall with a sickening thud, unconscious. Silence fell over the corridor, broken only by the fading hum of weapons. Rian dropped the stun staff. His breathing was uneven, shallow, too fast. Liesi turned toward him, her chest rising and falling sharply. You saved me, she whispered. You saved me, he countered. They stood in the wreckage, staring at each other like the universe had paused. Then Liesi stepped closer. Slowly, Deliberately, she placed her forehead against his. "Rian of Earth," she whispered, voice trembling just slightly. "Our ceremony begins now." His breath caught. "Right here? In this hallway?" She let out a soft, breathy laugh, something she'd never done before. "No. But after this battle, there will be no one left to challenge us." He placed a hand on her cheek. "Tell me honestly, this marriage, this bond, is it still protection?" Liesi held his gaze. "It is protection. It is alliance. It is duty." Her voice softened. "But it is also the first choice I have made in years that feels like my own." Rian's throat tightened. "Then I'll choose it too." Her eyes shimmered with something deep, ancient, vulnerable. "Say it." "I choose you, Liesi." Her pupils dilated. For her species, that was the equivalent of a gasp. She took his hands and lifted them to her chest. "Then let the galaxies hear it." Rian leaned closer, feeling her breath warm against his skin. "Let them hear it." But before their foreheads touched again, the deck exploded with light. A new alarm shrieked. Liesi spun around, face draining of color. "No. No, no, this is impossible." Rian grabbed her arm. "What is it?" She stared at the holographic display forming above them. An enormous armada, 10 times the size of Varid's forces. "They weren't supposed to move," she whispered. "The Outer Council would never." "What are you saying?" Liesi swallowed hard. "They've declared civil war." The alarms didn't calm down. They only grew louder, sharper, like the ship itself was terrified. Rian stood frozen for half a heartbeat, staring at the massive red hologram of the incoming fleet. It wasn't just large. This armada looked like a storm made of metal and old grudges. Rows upon rows of heavy carriers. Siege ships shaped like broken claws. Long-range dreadnoughts that could tear moons apart if pointed the wrong way. Liesi quietly exhaled, and Rian felt a cold shift in the air. Empress Liesi was back. Calm, towering, terrifying. But something behind her eyes flickered in a way he'd never seen before. Fear. Not for herself. For him. "Rian," she said, her voice low and almost too steady. "Listen carefully. We don't have time. My cousin's rebellion was only a spark. The Outer Council, they're the wildfire." He stepped closer. "Why are they here? What do they want?" "You," she whispered. That word hit him harder than any explosion rocking the ship. "Me? I'm the least important." "Stop." She pressed a hand to his chest. Not forceful, just enough to still him. "Your existence threatens ancient rules they swore to protect. A human bound to the Empress? To them, that is corruption, prophecy, and blasphemy tangled into one dangerous knot. But that's insane. Power fears what it cannot predict." The deck jolted again, knocking Rian into her. Liesi wrapped an arm around him instinctively, steadying him even as smoke hissed from a damaged conduit overhead. Her guards rushed forward, forming a shield around them. One spoke urgently. "Empress, they've breached the outer hull. Carriers docking on all sides." Varid's soldiers, those still conscious, groaned on the floor or struggled upright. The surviving loyalists pulled them back, securing prisoners, but their faces were grim. Liesi took a slow breath, the kind that didn't calm a person but readied them for something overwhelming. "We go to the central chamber," she ordered. Rian followed beside her as the guards flanked them tightly. He noticed how her hand hovered near him. Not touching, but near enough that she could pull him behind her if things went bad. The hallway lights flickered, then steadied. The ship groaned under distant impacts. Rian's heart thudded faster with each tremor. "So this is it then?" he asked softly. "A full civil war over us?" "A civil war over what we represent," Liesi corrected. "Change, fear, hope. And they think killing me stops that?" "No," she glanced at him. "They think killing both of us stops it." That chilled him more than the explosions. They reached the lift. The doors slid open, revealing the high obsidian chamber that served as the ship's throne hall. Rian had only seen it once before, cold, ceremonial, intimidating. Now it felt like walking into the last safe room in a collapsing universe. Liesi stepped up onto the raised central platform. The moment her palm touched the control panel, the whole chamber lit up with glowing patterns. A tactical map unfurled in the air, marking enemy ships in bloody red. Rian watched her face as she absorbed it. Her jaw tightened, her shoulders squared. "Show me their commander," she ordered. A single ship enlarged on the map. A profile flickered into shape. Long black hair, silver ceremonial armor, eyes like shards of obsidian. Rian frowned. "Who the hell is that?" Liesi's voice went razor-sharp. "High Consul Cerexa. Is she important? She once swore loyalty to my mother. Now she leads the faction that demands my execution." Rian swallowed. "Lovely." The guards spread out along the perimeter of the chamber. The doors sealed with a low, heavy thud. Liesi turned to him, and for the first time since the alarm, her expression softened. "Not much, but enough. Rian, there is something I must tell you before this battle reaches us." His stomach dropped. "That sounds like you think one of us might die. Both of us might." He reached for her hand. She let him take it. Her fingers were cold. "What is it?" he asked, whispering. Liesi's throat moved as she swallowed. "The marriage vow. The one I asked for. It ties life force." Rian blinked. "Meaning? If you accept the bond," she continued quietly, "your life and mine become linked. Not one soul, but one fate. If one dies, the other's heart follows." He stared at her, shocked into stillness. "That's why you hesitated during the proposal," he breathed. "Yes. And why you looked like I'd punched you when I said I chose you." "Yes. And you still want to do this vow? Even with a war outside?" Her voice went soft, raw, unguarded. "Especially with a war outside." He couldn't look away from her. The Empress, the warrior, the woman who somehow made him feel both grounded and weightless. "Liesi," he whispered, "we don't even know what tomorrow looks like." "No one ever does," she said simply. "But I know this. If I die alone today, nothing I built will survive. If I live with you beside me," she exhaled shakily, "we might create something the galaxy cannot destroy." Rian felt his heart hammering. "And if I say no? I protect you as far as I can." She looked away just slightly. "And I die alone." He squeezed her hand. "I'm not letting that happen." Her eyes flicked back to him, quick, sharp, hopeful. But before she could speak, the entire chamber shook with a violent blast. The map flickered. Alarms wailed again. The lights dimmed. A guard shouted, "They've breached the inner wing." Another voice roared through the intercom. "Armored units heading for the throne hall. They broke the perimeter." Liesi stepped off the platform, pulling Rian with her. Her voice cut through the noise. "Activate full lockdown. Seal every route leading here." The chamber doors shot thick metal bars into place. Energy shields crackled to life. Rian looked around at the sealed hall, the guards forming a circle, Liesi's cloak sweeping behind her like a storm about to break. He knew what this was, their last stand. Liesi faced him again. Her voice shook, just a little. "We may not get another moment alone. Rian of Earth, do you accept my vow?" He opened his mouth, and the doors detonated inward. A blast of white fire ripped through the chamber. Armored enemy soldiers poured in like shadows given form. And leading them, High Consul Cerexa stepped through the smoke, her blade already drawn. She pointed it at Liesi and said, cold and clear, "Empress, your human dies first." Rian barely had time to react. The blast threw him sideways, skidding across the polished obsidian floor, the air crackling with displaced energy. Guards shouted, weapons flaring, but their cries were drowned beneath the deafening roar of the intruding soldiers. Liesi surged forward like a living storm, golden light snapping from her fingertips, but Cerexa moved faster, stepping through her attacks as if the world bent to her will. Rian scrambled to his feet, heart hammering. He wanted to help, but what could he do? He had no weapons, no training, only a human body against centuries of Valari martial mastery. And yet, something inside him shifted. The same pulse he had felt before, the resonance, throbbed stronger, responding to his fear, his adrenaline, his desperation. Lysi dodged another slash from Sorexa, and her eyes found Rian. "Now! Stand with me, Rian!" she shouted. He inhaled sharply, fear and determination coiling together. His hands glowed faintly with the same silver-gold light that had protected him in the palace. He didn't understand it. He didn't know how it worked. All he knew was that he had to try. He moved forward, and the light erupted around him in a dome that shielded Lysi from the onslaught. The soldiers faltered, their weapons sparking against the impenetrable aura. Rian felt it. Every heartbeat of the palace, every shiver of Lysi's energy, flowing into him. He wasn't just standing beside her. He was part of something far bigger, something alive. Sorexa's eyes widened. "Impossible," she hissed. She lunged, blade aimed straight for Lysi, but Rian reacted instinctively. The energy flared outward, striking Sorexa's chest. She stumbled, thrown backward, and the force knocked several of her soldiers off balance. Lyra, no, Lysi, grabbed his hand, her golden eyes blazing with awe and something warmer, softer. "Rian, you did it. You resonated with me. I don't know how," he gasped, voice barely audible over the chaos. She didn't answer. Instead, she moved toward Sorexa, and the resonance between them pulsed like a heartbeat, thick and tangible, wrapping the throne hall in golden-silver light. Soldiers screamed as energy waves flung them into walls, the floor cracking under the power. And then Lysi stopped, her eyes locked on Rian. "The vow. Now, Rian, speak it. Choose me." Rian swallowed hard. His fingers were still intertwined with hers. He looked at her. The empress who had saved him in moments he didn't even know he could survive. The woman who made the impossible feel natural. The being whose heartbeat now intertwined with his own. "I choose you," he said. His voice rang out strong, resonant, echoing across the hall. "I accept the vow, Lysi. I choose you now and always." The moment the words left his mouth, the energy around them exploded in brilliance. The palace walls shimmered, light cascading through the corridors like liquid fire. The soldiers froze mid-motion as the resonance surged outward, forming a dome so bright it was almost unbearable to look at. Lysi gasped, her hand pressed to his chest. It's complete," she whispered, awestruck. "The bond, it's real. It's permanent." Rian felt it too. The pulse of her life, her energy, mingling with his. He could feel her thoughts, her fears, her courage, every fragment of her soul, and it didn't frighten him. It grounded him, gave him clarity. They weren't separate anymore. They were one. Sorexa's eyes went wide in terror as the light expanded, ripping her armor apart. Her soldiers fell to their knees, their weapons useless against the combined power of human and empress. One by one, the invaders were swept away by the force, tossed from the hall like leaves in a storm. The hall fell silent. Dust drifted in beams of soft, golden light. Rian and Lysi stood in the center, their hands still clasped, hearts pounding in synchrony. Rian looked at her, voice quiet but full of conviction. "So what now?" Lysi smiled, a mixture of relief and triumph, warmth and authority shining in her golden eyes. "Now," she said, "we rebuild, not just this empire, but the balance of everything that feared change. With the bond complete, no one, not council, not rival, not fate itself, can break us." Rian laughed softly, the sound full of disbelief and hope. "Guess I'm officially part of your empire now, huh?" "And officially," she said, tilting her head and letting the light from the nebula spill across her face. "Part of my heart." They stood together as the sun of the distant star system rose, painting the throne hall in brilliant, iridescent hues. Outside, the remnants of the fleets fled, leaving the galaxy to witness a story no one could ignore. A human had stood beside an empress, and together, they had changed the course of an empire. And somewhere deep in the palace, where the ancient resonance of the Valari throne whispered in waves. It hummed in perfect harmony with the two of them, human and empress, bound by vow unstoppable, eternal. No one in the galaxy would forget the night the stars themselves bent to their union. The universe had rewritten itself, and it began with a single heartbeat.